Okay, the poem that we're going to work on here is The Wind Tapped Like a Tired Man by Emily Dickinson. So, one of the first things I noticed just by looking at this is I see all these dashes. And Emily Dickinson is famous for these dashes. And when you see a dash, dashes equal a pause, like a very hard pause. So, I'm going to actually read this thing aloud first, following the process. The wind tapped like a tired man, and like a host, "Come in," I boldly answered. Entered then my residence within, a rapid, footless guest, to offer whom a chair were as possible as hand, a sofa to the air. No bone had he to bind him. His speech was like the push of numerous humming birds at once from a superior bush. His countenance, a billow. His fingers, as he passed, let go of music, as of tunes blown tremulous in glass. He visited, still flitting. Then, like a timid man again, he tapped. 'Twas flurriedly, and I became alone. Ends on the dash. So now let's break it into its parts. We look at the words and we sketch the stretch. The wind. So I'm going to start with the first one. The wind. And this is my depiction of the wind. Tapped like a tired man. So here's a tired man, and he's tapping his hand on the door. Here's the door here, right? The wind tapped like a tired man, like a host, "Come in." I bet the speaker said, "Come in." I boldly answered. Entered then my residence within, a rapid, footless guest. So into my house. So I'm going to draw a little picture of the door being opened. So that's the door that's open. The person goes in, entered in the residence. A rapid, footless guest, to offer whom a chair were as possible as hand as a sofa to the air. So go ahead and have a seat. Although it's kind of impossible, it's kind of what the host is saying. It's like impossible to hand a sofa to the air, but I offered them to have a seat. No bone he had to bind him. So when I think of a bone, something looks a little something like this. No bone for his body. Well, why wouldn't he? But that's because he's the wind. To bind him. His speech was like the push of numerous hummingbirds at once. So you've probably seen hummingbirds, and their wings got that little shape to them, and they were in the air. But that's my lame depiction of a hummingbird. So hummingbirds. His speech was like a whole bunch of hummingbirds at once from a superior bush. Well, they kind of make like a whirring sound. So the wind sounded like these hummingbirds from a superior bush. And bushes are where hummingbirds tend to hang out. His countenance, well, actually, countenance equals face. His face was a billow. Well, what is a billow? A billow is when the wind blows very, very sharply in one direction. So that's my interpretation of what a billow looks like. His face was a billow. His fingers, as he passed, let go of music, as of tunes of tremulous in glass. So wait a sec. His fingers created music, and this is what I think of when I think of music. Right? As of tunes blown in tremulous glass. So there's like a thing called a glass harp, and tremulous, to shake is what that means. So think of like a glass flute or something. When he passed by, it was like the whistling of the wind. He visited, still flitting, and flitting is an example of onomatopoeia. It's the same sound as the flitting and the whistling of the wind. He visited. Then like a timid man, like somebody's timid, doesn't like speak a lot. Timid man again. He tapped. 'Twas flurriedly. I wonder what flurriedly means. Probably like a flurry, something carried by the wind. I'm not sure, but I think that I can create the image of that. Again, he tapped. 'Twas flurriedly, and I became alone. And that actually left the speaker of the poem alone at the end of the poem. So now with lenses, like I said, I'm looking for who's the speaker. I'm also looking for the images that are being used. and we're going to talk about patterns a little bit. So first thing is, the wind showed up and tapped on the door. The speaker let them in. When it talked, it sounded like hummingbirds. Whistles, tremulous, which means to shake, and then he still was flitting, and then the wind left, and left the speaker alone. The other thing I like about this is this poem, I notice, is personification. Personification. But what's personified here? Oh, the wind is. So then if I were to talk about the speaker and they're related to the wind, the speaker, it's pretty clear the speaker enjoyed the company of the wind. And I also noticed that the dashes added like a sense of hesitation or nervousness in the tone of the poem. But that's kind of how these poems kind of tend to go. So this is Emily Dickinson's The Wind Tapped Like a Tired Man, and how you sketch the stretch and the lenses that you apply for it.